Her name was Eliza. She carried herself like the world owed her admiration. Everywhere she went, heads turned. But not because she was kind, not because she smiled at strangers or helped someone pick up groceries they had dropped. People turned to look because Eliza demanded attention. One glance at her wardrobe and you'd understand. Silk dresses, high heels that echoed through the hallway like a queen's entrance. But more than her outfits, it was the way she spoke with an air of certainty, as if she truly believed there was no one on this earth more beautiful than her. "Look at me," she'd say. "Isn't this dress simply perfect on me? I don't think there's a single person alive who wears elegance quite like I do." Sophie, a classmate of hers, once smiled and said gently, "You do look nice, Eliza." Eliza rolled her eyes. "Of course I do. I always do. Not everyone is lucky enough to be born flawless." Sophie hesitated, but still managed a small request. "Would you like to come with me to my friend's birthday tonight? I thought it might be fun." Eliza tilted her head and laughed, not kindly, but with something sharp behind her teeth. "You want me to go to a party with you? Look at yourself. Plain, boring, and honestly, you're nothing compared to me." Sophie swallowed her pride. "I just thought we could spend some time together." Eliza didn't even flinch. "Fun with you? That's a waste of my time. You don't belong in the same circle as me. You're just a nobody." There was silence. Then Eliza turned and walked away. Hooked into this world of self-importance, Eliza believed she was building an empire of admiration. But what she was really doing was burning every bridge behind her. Her arrogance didn't end at school. It followed her home. Across the hallway of her modest apartment lived Jonah, a young college lecturer. He was thoughtful, intelligent, and humble. Everything Eliza was not. Jonah had admired her from afar, not because she was beautiful, but because he had once believed there might be more to her than what she showed the world. That belief faded the day he approached her outside their building. "Good morning, Eliza," he said with a hopeful smile. "Would you be free this evening? I was thinking maybe we could grab dinner at that rooftop cafe downtown." Eliza didn't smile. She looked at him the way someone might look at a stain on a white shirt. "Where?" she asked. He pointed. "Just a quiet place. Great view." "I thought we could talk." She scoffed. "Jonah, don't cross your limits. You're just my neighbor. Don't confuse that with friendship." "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said gently. "It's a nice place, really. Not expensive. Just, I don't eat in cheap places. I only go where high society belongs." Jonah's voice didn't waver. "It's not about the money, Eliza. It's about spending time with someone I care about." For the first time she paused, looked him in the eye, and then she said it, that one sentence that would later echo in her heart when it was already too late. "You're not the kind of man I deserve. You're not my type. You're dark. You're poor. I'm white and I belong somewhere better." That night, Eliza stood before the mirror in her bedroom, trying on her 5th dress. Her father knocked on the door, weary after a long day. "Eliza," he called softly, "would you help me make some tea? I have a bit of a headache, she replied without turning around. Dinner's on the stove. Take a pill. I have plans. You look dressed up, he said quietly. Are you going out with someone? Yes, a man who actually belongs in my world, she snapped. Is it Jonah? She turned, glaring. Of course not. That man is beneath me. Her father sat down heavily on the couch. Eliza, don't judge a person by the weight of their wallet or the shade of their skin. That's not how love works. But she didn't hear him. She was already picking up her purse, already dialing the number of the man she met just days ago at the restaurant. A stranger named Nathan. He was rich. He drove a shiny car. And most importantly, he noticed her. At the restaurant, Nathan had said all the right things. You're stunning, he told her. I've never seen anyone like you. Eliza smiled. This was the attention she craved. Jonah sat across the restaurant, watching quietly. The pain in his chest wasn't because Eliza chose someone else. It was because she was walking into something built on illusion. But Eliza didn't care. She was falling not in love, but into a fantasy. A life where no one questioned her arrogance, where money would cover her mistakes, where truth didn't matter, as long as she looked good. That night, as Jonah walked back home, he passed Eliza's father sitting alone in the stairwell. She's gone out with him again, the older man said, his eyes distant. Jonah sat beside him. I don't know what I did wrong, the father whispered. I raised her with love, with honesty. I gave her everything I could. Jonah looked at him, pain soft in his voice. You did your best. Some lessons take time. The old man chuckled sadly. Time. I don't know how much of that I have left. Jonah would never forget those words, because by morning, that man would be gone. The morning light broke softly through the kitchen window, but the apartment felt colder than usual. Eliza hadn't come home yet. Her father, Mr. Harris, sat on the couch waiting, but he wouldn't wait much longer. By the time Eliza stepped into the building that afternoon, laughing beside Nathan and twirling the new earrings he'd gifted her, the silence that greeted her wasn't one of peace, it was grief. Jonah was at the door. Eliza, he said, his voice quieter than usual. What are you doing here? She asked. He didn't answer right away. His eyes were filled with something unfamiliar, sorrow and disappointment. It's your father. He collapsed this morning. A neighbor called the ambulance. He didn't make it. Eliza blinked. For a moment, she thought he was joking. That this was one of Jonah's quiet warnings again, something she could brush off. But then she saw it, the truth in his eyes, the weight on his shoulders, the hurt that wasn't just about Mr. Harris, but about her. No, she whispered. That's not possible. She turned, stormed past Jonah into the apartment, calling out, Dad, Dad, I'm home. Don't play with me like this. I have good news. Nathan, he wants me to meet his mother. Silence. She stood in the middle of the empty room. The mug her father used for tea was still on the counter, unwashed, waiting. Eliza, Jonah's voice came again, softer now. He waited for you. He asked for you. She stared at the floor, at the rug her father used to sit on every evening. He always said it was where his back felt the least pain. He would hum old songs under his breath while waiting for her to return from her glamorous world. She hadn't even said goodbye. The funeral was quiet. Jonah stood beside the grave. Eliza didn't come. She was with Nathan that day, shopping for clothes she didn't need, laughing at jokes she barely understood. But inside, something had started to shift. A part of her heart, once protected by layers of vanity and pride, had begun to crack. She looked at Nathan that evening, surrounded by lights and loud music, and suddenly everything felt hollow. Back home, Jonah sat beside his mother. She denied her father, Mom, he said. She told Nathan her dad lived in Europe and worked in finance. His mother shook her head. Pride can turn even the warmest hearts to stone. But I still love her, Jonah confessed. His mother paused. My son, love is not about saving someone. It's about walking with them when they choose to grow. But she's not choosing that path. I know. Days passed. Eliza moved in with Nathan. The apartment was luxurious, her closet full, but her nights, they were full of silence and questions she didn't want to answer. Nathan's mother, Veronica, was sharp, always watching, always judging. One afternoon, Veronica pulled her aside. Eliza, she said, tell me about your family. My father, Eliza hesitated. He's not around much, travels a lot, business. Veronica narrowed her eyes. Strange. We did a small background check, standard protocol. There's no record of him in Europe. Eliza's throat tightened. Maybe it's outdated. Maybe, Veronica said, but her tone said otherwise. Meanwhile, Jonah was offered a teaching position abroad. It was his dream, a university that valued not just his mind, but his kindness. He was packing when Roma, one of his students, knocked on his door. Sir, she said, may I speak with you? He smiled. Of course. She stepped in, hands shaking slightly. I just wanted you to know I admire you, not just as a teacher, as a person. Jonah looked up, surprised. Roma blushed. I know you loved someone once who didn't see your worth, but I see it. There was silence. Then Jonah smiled gently. Thank you, Roma. That means more than you know. Back in Nathan's home, Eliza found herself staring out the window more often. She no longer bragged about clothes or beauty. One night, she turned to Nathan and whispered, do you think people can really change? He looked at her, surprised. Why do you ask? No reason, she replied. But deep inside, she was beginning to wonder who she really was. One morning, while Nathan was out, Eliza received a package from Veronica. Inside were documents, photos, a letter. They were proof that her father had worked as a janitor in Veronica's company, proof that he had died the same day Eliza had lied about him. There were also transcripts of her denial, of her shame. Eliza's hands trembled. She knew Veronica had done this to scare her, to show her she didn't belong. But instead of fear, what Eliza felt was shame. Real, bone-deep shame. She picked up her phone, dialed Jonah, but he didn't answer. So she walked, all the way back to the place she once called home. Jonah's mother opened the door. Eliza, she said, stunned, what are you doing here? I came to say I'm sorry. Eliza stood in the hallway of the apartment where she grew up. It had been weeks, maybe months. Time had blurred since she left this place behind, chasing a version of life that glittered on the surface but gave nothing back. Jonah's mother looked at her for a long time before stepping aside. Inside, the apartment was quiet, still filled with the warmth Eliza had once taken for granted. I just needed to see it again, Eliza whispered. Before everything fades. Jonah wasn't there. He had already left for his new job overseas. He had left without saying goodbye. Eliza sat on the couch, her father's old place. The fabric was worn, still shaped by his weight. She ran her fingers across the cushions, and for the first time tears came. Not quiet ones, but full-bodied sobs, for the words she never said, for the man she had turned away, for the part of her that had died the moment she lied. Jonah's mother sat beside her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Sometimes silence is the most healing sound in the world. Across the ocean, Jonah unpacked his books one by one. Roma, now a colleague at the university, brought him coffee. "You okay?" she asked. Jonah smiled faintly. "I will be. Do you still think of her?" He didn't answer right away. "Yes," he admitted. "But the difference is, now I can let her go." Back in the city, Eliza's world was crumbling. Nathan had changed. He didn't laugh like before. He came home late, distant, distracted. One evening, she found a message on his phone, another woman's name, a dinner reservation. It wasn't betrayal that broke her heart. It was the realization she had traded love for comfort and ended up with neither. That night, she packed a small bag. No jewelry, no designer clothes. She went to the only person who might still open the door. At Jonah's old building, she knocked gently. Roma opened the door. They stood in silence, the woman Jonah had once loved, and the woman who loved him now. "I'm not here to ruin anything," Eliza said softly. I need to ask you something." Roma didn't speak, but stepped aside. Eliza sat at the table, her hands trembling. "Did he ever hate me?" Roma took a moment before answering. "No, but he stopped waiting." Eliza nodded. "He should have." "You know," Roma added gently, "he prayed for you every night before he left." Eliza looked away. "I don't deserve that kind of kindness." "Maybe not," Roma said, "but maybe you could become someone who does." Those words settled deep in Eliza's chest. They stayed with her that night, and the next, and slowly they began to change her. Weeks turned into months. Eliza got a job at a local library, organizing books, wiping tables, helping children find stories that made their eyes light up. She walked everywhere. She saved every dollar. People no longer turned to look at her for what she wore, but for how she listened. She wasn't perfect, but she was trying. And sometimes that's enough to begin again. One afternoon, while shelving a stack of donated books, she found a familiar title. "The world doesn't owe you kindness, but you can still choose it." Inside, on the first page, a note in Jonah's handwriting: "To anyone searching for a way forward, the past only defines you if you carry it into the future. She closed the book slowly, tears stinging her eyes. Back at the university, Jonah received a letter. No return address. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're well. I hope you're loved. You deserve that. He folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his journal. Not because he was holding on, but because forgiveness, too, is a form of freedom. It was spring again. The trees outside the library bloomed with delicate white flowers, as if the world itself was trying to start over. Inside, Eliza's fingers brushed against the pages of old books, the quiet rhythm of her days now filled with meaning. She no longer needed anyone's applause to feel seen. She had begun writing in a small notebook, not to impress anyone, but to understand herself. Each entry started with one question: what did I choose today, pride or peace? And more often now, she chose peace. One evening, as she was locking up the library, a small hand tugged at her coat. Miss Eliza, a child whispered, holding up a book. Can I borrow this one again? You read it so well. She knelt down, smiling. Of course, darling, but you have to promise to come back and tell me your favorite part. The child nodded, eyes bright. Moments like that, they filled the spaces in her heart she once tried to cover with diamonds and silk. Across the sea, Jonah sat under the soft light of his study, reading a new manuscript from Roma. They had married quietly, no grand celebration, no flashy announcements, just vows exchanged under an old olive tree, promises whispered with sincerity. Roma walked in, barefoot, her hair damp from the rain. You're reading it? She asked. He looked up, smiling. It's beautiful, just like you. She sat beside him and leaned into his shoulder. I still think about her sometimes, he confessed. Roma nodded. Me too. I hope she's okay. She will be, Jonah said softly. I believe she found her way. Back in the city, Eliza visited her father's grave. She came alone. No flowers, just honesty. I never said thank you, she whispered, for the roof over my head, for the meals, for the patience, for loving a girl who couldn't see you. She knelt down, resting her hand gently on the cold stone. I'm trying, Dad. I really am. The wind picked up, rustling the trees around her. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, she felt forgiven. Life moved forward. She met people not for what they could give her, but for who they were. She fell in love with small things, the sound of a page turning, the laugh of an old man at the corner cafe, the way kindness always returned, even if delayed. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. And yet, somehow, she had become more. One day, while shelving returned books, she found an envelope tucked between the pages. No name, just a sentence. You became someone worth loving, not because you changed the world, but because you finally learned how to love it. Inside was a photo of her reading to children, smiling. She looked around the room. No one claimed it, but she knew deep down someone had seen her. That night, she stood by the window of her small apartment. It wasn't a penthouse. The tiles cracked in places. The heater made a soft clicking noise. But the peace, It was real. She whispered to the night sky, "Dad, if you're listening, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself." And in that stillness, something shifted. Not the world, but her world. Maybe you know someone like Eliza, or maybe a part of you was her. Arrogance often hides fear. Pride is just a mask over pain. But no matter how far you've fallen, you can always choose again to be kind, to forgive, to heal, to become someone new. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs honest ones, brave enough to grow,